Look, it's a simple trade-off, really. You, Dr. Ogden, and your husband are both psychologists. You want to go and study language development in some very primitive people who live near the Amazon, right?
Yes.
Well, our department wants somebody to study marijuana use, and in just the sort of backwoods people. We don't care what language these people speak, or how they learn to speak it. But we do want somebody to study pot smoking, how it affects their lives, their health, and their ability to get along in the world. You do our study for us, and we'll pay for the research. What you choose to do in your own spare time, of course, is your own affair, naturally. If you want to study language development on the side, we couldn't care less.
What do you wish us to prove for you?
Oh, nothing. Nothing at all. We have no preconceived notions of what your findings will be. Well, no official preconceived notions, you understand? But truthfully, we'll accept and let you publish whatever results you get.
Why us?
Because you've been there and you know the people. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to do your own research there. Speaking personally, I do happen to be quite interested in language development, but the department simply isn't able to fund such projects these days. So when I read the proposal you sent us on language development in primitives, well, I thought that maybe we could...
Roger, I do believe we ought to consider it. But surely we'd have to think how to measure the effects on long-term marijuana smoking on anybody, much less on the natives.
You're right, but why do you want us to study Amazon primitives? If you want to study the effects of pot smoking on Australian citizens, and I suspect you do, why not do your research right here in Canberra? I'm sure there are enough people who work in the government...
You're thinking of the opposition, but really you two. Surely you know that we couldn't get a really random sample of long-term pot smokers here, because those people that would volunteer wouldn't be representative. Besides, I suspect that those natives have been smoking pot for many generations. You can look for long-term genetic effects, as well as measuring the problems that it gives them today.
I thought you said you had no preconceived notions of what we'd find. What if there aren't any long-term genetic effects, or any real problems today?
Look, Dr. Ogden, I'll be frank with you. It would greatly please certain people upstairs if you found that marijuana smoking had a bad effect on the natives. Maybe that's what you'll find, maybe not. But let's get things straight. I don't care what you find. Just plan the best study possible, using as many controls as you can, and get the facts. We'll pay the bills no matter what.
Haven't you supported similar studies before?
Yes, a couple perhaps. But the more research is repeated, the more firmly we can believe in the data. As my old senior professor at uni once said, replication is good for the soul.
What did the other investigators find?
Now, I'd rather you approach this project with fresh minds. Just make sure you measure the biological, psychological and social effects of marijuana use, and do so as objectively as you can. That's the important thing.
I don't believe I've read the results of those couple of studies you've already funded.
I don't believe we've had them published as yet. Perhaps later this year they'll be available.
You mean you didn't publish the results because the data didn't come out the way you expected it to? Then why do you want to fund another studies whose results you may have to suppress?
Listen to me. You're both psychologists, and you're supposed to be able to understand why people and organisations act the way they do. You know perfectly well it takes a long time for an organisation, let alone the government, to change its mind on a subject. It takes a lot of data to accomplish that miracle, and a lot of gentle pushing on the inside. You go do the study and report what you find. Do your own work on the side if you wish, and leave it up to me to see that your data has maximum impact. Okay?
Well, I think we understand each other. We'll go plan a study and submit a proposal to you. If we agree on the details, you will get us the funding. And, as you said, any other research we do on the side is our business.
Marvellous. I'd hope you'd see it that way. Now let's go and find a drink somewhere and celebrate. Back from the Amazon so soon?
It's been 18 months.
Yes. Well, time certainly flies, doesn't it? And how are the pot-smoking natives? Still lost in the Stone Age, I presume?
The natives are decent human beings, just like you and me. Some do smoke marijuana, of course, but I doubt theirs is any more of a Stone Age than ours.
Yes. And what were the results of your study? I haven't had time to read all of it yet. I trust you didn't come up with anything too radical.
No, our results were about the same of those that Vera Rubin and Lambros Komitas found in their study of marijuana use in Jamaica, and that Paul Dougherty and his colleagues of the University of Florida found in their work in Costa Rica.
Oh, you read other studies, did you?
Well, we began by looking at the various ways in which our natives use marijuana. They chew it, smoke it, brew it as a tea, and use it in their cooking.
Oh, my. That much, eh?
Yes, and they give it to their children as a medicine, so they start using cannabis at a very early age. But, of course, not all of the natives used it.
Good. That means you could find a controlled group of non-users, I suppose.
We found 30 men who were heavy, long-term pot smokers, and 30 who had never used it at all. The users smoke an average of about 8 joints a day, except they call them splits instead of joints. And as we note in our report, they refer to pot as ganja, just as the Jamaicans do. It has much more THC in it than does pot in Australia.
Excellent. And the non-users were similar to the users in all other respects other than their use of ganja?
Yes, they were about the same height, age, occupation and educational background. And the men in both the experimental and control groups were heavy smokers of tobacco.
Well, if the groups were that similar, then any difference between their mental and physical health most probably was due to the fact that one group smoked ganja and the other group didn't, right?